Next up, the Air India 171 tragedy in Ahmedabad, June this year, left 260 people dead in just a matter of seconds. India's official biggest aviation tragedy. Questions linger over what caused the Boeing 787 Dreamliner to crash moments after takeoff. Families continue to seek clarity and justice. Preliminary reports, corporate silence have only deepened this uncertainty, fueling legal battles, public outrage, and while interim relief memorial initiatives offer some support, the call for a full independent investigation is growing louder. Our report on the long-form story looks at the crash in much deeper detail. The families are now fighting for accountability, and Boeing's mounting global legal challenges continue. The flashpoint this week has been the father of the pilot, a 91-year-old Mr. Sabharwal, writing to the Indian government, saying that his son, the pilot of that plane, cannot be made the scapegoat for this tragedy.
A takeoff, 32 seconds later, a crash. This Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner never left the skies, only fell from them. A tragedy written in seconds, etched into aviation history. What happened between liftoff and the moment the aircraft tore into BJ Medical College? The mystery still hangs heavy in the smoke, and the answer remains elusive. The AAIB's preliminary report, it did little to clear the fog. Instead, it sparked what feels like a Rashomon effect, multiple stories, no single truth. Without the proper context, necessary elaboration, and disclosure of related information, it has lent itself a great deal of ambiguity. And this lack of information only led to increased speculations. What was meant to bring clarity only deepened the mystery.
The design defect potentially is an issue with these couplings. Although we've not completed our review of their design, it could be an application issue or an installation problem. But we know that the documents do speak to manufacturing issues with respect to Boeing's failure to install waterproofing, waterproof sealant, waterproof drip lines and drip pans in areas. We are concerned for the potential of both a design and a manufacturing issue with these aircraft.
For the families mourning their lost loved ones, this lingering ambiguity deepens their grief, prolongs their anguish, and delays the catharsis they so desperately seek.
12 जून को अहमदाबाद में जो एयर इंडिया प्लेन क्रैश का जो हादसा हुआ, इनमें मेरे बच्चा था जिनका नाम दीर था। वो सिर्फ 23 साल की उम्र का था। आज तक ये 20 तारीख को इसका 100 दिन हो जाएगा, लेकिन 100 दिन होने के बाद भी जो प्लेन का हादसा हुआ वो किस कारण हुआ उसका सच अभी तक बाहर नहीं आया है। तो मैं जो भी अथॉरिटी है उनको मेरी तरफ से अपील करता हूँ कि वो जल्द से जल्द जो सच है वो बाहर आए, जिससे हमको ये मिले और भविष्य में ऐसा कोई हादसा न हो जिससे जो मैंने खोया है वो दूसरी किसी को इसकी तकलीफ हो।
बोर्डिंग पास सब कुछ हो गया, मुझे फ़ोन आया कि मैं पहुँचाया हूँ, मेरे बोर्डिंग पास सब कुछ हो गया है, मुझे भूख लगी है, मैं खाना खा के वापस फ़ोन करता हूँ। और मुझे फ़ोन तो नहीं आया और प्लेन में बेचकर मुझे फ़ोन किया था कि मैं अब प्लेन में बेच गया हूँ। तो मैंने पूछा कि माँ को फ़ोन किया था, तो कि माँ को मैंने फ़ोन किया था, माँ नहीं उठाता है, तो तुम माँ के फ़ोन करके कह देना कि मैं बैठ गया हूँ प्लेन में। बस इतनी ही बात लास्ट टाइम मेरे हुई।
The family, 14 families of Diu have been hit by a storm a few days back, which is on 12th of June. While there have been 14 families engulfed in the plane crash which happened on 12th June, there's one miraculous family where Vishwas Bhalia had come out alive. It in fact is a miraculous life, but there he has lost his own brother Ajay Bhalia.
A fresh lawsuit slams Boeing and Honeywell, blaming faulty fuel switches for their Air India 787 crash. Looks like Boeing's playbook hasn't changed. Deny, deflect and delay. Meanwhile, grieving families are left chasing answers Boeing does not want to give.
Outline this issue of water leaks on board 787 aircraft. We know that those leaks are mentioned in documents going back at least to 2016. We've also obtained some of the couplings that are referenced in those materials, and our experts are evaluating those couplings now to determine what the problem is, because as we learned from the documents, couplings are leaking in areas above EE bays or electric equipment rooms on board the aircraft, underneath the cockpit in the front as well as in the aft of the plane, causing equipment to become wet. Rush to blame the pilots is unfair. Yes, I can tell you that any knee-jerk or speculative rush to blame the pilots so quickly is unfair and inappropriate, quite frankly, because it adds insult to injury potentially for those pilots' families. We know that information was released from the preliminary report that speaks to movement of the fuel switches. We don't yet know if those switches manually moved or if that's a reflection of something going on in the electrical system in the plane. If we can access the flight data recorder information, and we filed a Freedom of Information Act request in the United States for that information, if that is forthcoming, we can find out what happened here. We can look at the data and establish an accurate timeline. The focus initially is going to be on what caused the ram air turbine, or the RAT, to deploy and why. We know, based on preliminary information, it appears that it deployed very early in this sequence. That is caused by something. And so if we can get the data and understand what caused that, we'll be very, very close to understanding what happened here and what caused this crash.
In a dramatic turn, the 91-year-old father of Sumit Sabharwal has spoken out. In this moment of reckoning, he raises his voice firmly against Boeing, the AIIB report, and all that compromises the peace of his late son. In a letter addressed to the Ministry of Civil Aviation and the AAIB Director General, he demands a formal, independent investigation seeking truth and justice above all. In a powerful letter, Pushkaraj Sabharwal, father of Captain Sumit Sabharwal, condemned the preliminary AAIB report as deficient, diversionary and discrepant, accusing it of failing to provide clear facts about the crash. He strongly refutes media speculation that his son was under psychological pressure or considering suicide, pointing out that such insinuations based on outdated personal events have deeply harmed both his son's reputation and his own health. He demands the truth, citing Captain Sabharwal's 25 years of flawless flying and over 100 flights post his mother's passing without incident. His call for a formal, unbiased investigation is a plea for justice and dignity.
India still have contract with Turkish Technique?
I don't think this is the appropriate time to talk about that. We're very focused on supporting the families and everyone affected by today's incident.
We just wanted to know, is Air India accountable for this?
Look, it's our aircraft, it's our crew. We need to make sure the investigation is well supported. But first and foremost, we want to look after the people that have been affected by this incident.
One last question. There were multiple show cause notices given. Why were they ignored?
I don't believe this is the appropriate time to talk about things that are unrelated to this incident.
You would at least have information about the Turkish technique. Do you have contract with Turkish technique?
As I said before, this is not the time to talk about that. We're focused very much on the people that have been affected by this incident.
Yes or no? Just yes or no. Mr. Wilson, please say yes or no. India still have contract with Turkish technique?
I don't think this is the appropriate time to talk about that. We're very focused on supporting the families and everyone affected by today's incident.
We just wanted to know, is Air India accountable for this?
Look, it's our aircraft, it's our crew. We need to make sure the investigation is well supported. But first and foremost, we want to look after the people that have been affected by this incident.
One last question. There were multiple show cause notices given. Why were they ignored?
I don't believe this is the appropriate time to talk about things that are unrelated to this incident.
You would at least have information about the Turkish technique. Do you have contract with Turkish technique?
As I said before, this is not the time to talk about that. We're focused very much on the people that have been affected by this incident.
No? Just yes or no. Mr. Wilson, please say yes or no.
In response to a letter from Damandiu MP Umesh Bhai, Air India has begun disbursing interim relief of Rs 25 lakh to the families of crash victims. Meanwhile, the Tata Group has established the AI 171 Memorial and Welfare Trust, pledging Rs 1 crore ex gratia for each deceased passenger. The trust also aims to rebuild the BJ Medical College hostel and extend psychological and material support to first responders and relief workers affected by the tragedy. With Boeing now entangled in a fresh legal battle filed by families of the Air India crash victims, one thing remains unchanged: its deafening silence. While others step up with aid and accountability, Boeing's intent to compensate the grieving remains vague at best, offering little more than corporate distance to those seeking relief for an unimaginable loss. Boeing's legal troubles aren't limited to India. Earlier in June, the aerospace giant agreed to pay $1.1 billion to settle US criminal charges over 2 deadly 737 MAX crashes. Despite shelling out hundreds of millions in penalties and victim compensation, critics call the deal morally repugnant, a stark reminder that Boeing's lack of accountability stretches far beyond Indian skies.
To evaluate claims potentially against Boeing and others in the United States is completely separate and apart from compensation packages which have been offered by Air India and Tata. Those compensation packages have begun. Families have begun receiving some monetary funds from Air India. We understand Tata has registered their fund, and those payments should begin the end of this month, hopefully, or at least by the beginning of the next month.